is Ivana's and today we're going to present our Eco4214 issue in global economy group presentation. So firstly, let me introduce our team. So first you have me, Ivana's then you have Bong Ji Chang, then K. Law Fuk Choi, Bong Jia En, and Frederick Tay. So the topics that we are going to discuss today is firstly the key issues, then the potential policies, then lastly is the assumptions and limitations. So as for our key issues, we have four key issues. The first is the real estate crisis. Second is the high debt levels. Third, geopolitical tension. And fourth, zero COVID policy aftermath. So I'm going to talk about the real estate crisis. So firstly is the Evergrande's collapse. So Evergrande, once China's largest property developer, so they have $300 billion in debt. So this stopped construction of thousands of housing projects. Then this led to a ripple effect across the economy, causing people in China to lose their jobs and reduce consumers from spending in China. And secondly is the local government revenue loss. So the local governments, they actually rely heavily on land sales for their revenue. Sorry, as developers cut back on land purchase due to their own financial constraints. So the government's revenue decreased as well, leading to a reduction in infrastructure projects and public services. Next is high debt levels. So firstly is the rising national debt for China. So China's debt to GDP ratio surged to over 280% by 2023. So this has increased debt burden and it has made it difficult for the government to introduce new stimulus measures without further inflating the debt. So with this rising national debt, this has limited the ability to increase growth in China. Second is local government debt overload. So the local governments in China's government, they have accumulated over 9 trillion in debt total, much of it tied to infrastructure projects financed by land sales. So the collapse in land sales also due to the real estate crisis has left many people unable to repay loans, forcing cuts in spending on infrastructure and social programs and slowing regional economies. Okay, I'm done with my part. Now I'm gonna pass the time to Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Christabel. I'm Bong Ji Chen, and now I'm going to talk about geopolitical tension and also zero COVID policy. So let us look at geopolitical tension first. The Biden administration has increased the tariff rate of EV to 100%, 50% on solar cell, and 25% on electric vehicle batteries. And why does Biden do this? It's because he wants to compete in the 2024 presidential election with Donald Trump. And Trump is the one who proposed to increase the tax first for the China supplier. But now Biden wants to do it because he wants to win the election. And thus there is a 100% increase, 50% increase, and also 25% increase, all from the tariffs of China goods. And the second one is the Biden administration implemented new export control on advanced technologies such as quantum computing and semiconductor goods to curb China advances. So, as we all know, China is advancing day by day and they are catching up to the US and the other Western company. And that's why US want to enact a stricter control on the amount of semiconductor goods and also quantum computing goods that China could import from their country. Third, in September 2024, the Biden administration announced regulations that would ban hardware and software made by Chinese company. The most notably company is TikTok, where they actually go to court to talk about whether TikTok actually spy for China or not. And next, we are going to look at the zero COVID policy. So the first part of zero COVID policy, of course, we are going to talk about the economy. So China economy has suffered a 3.9% reduction in GDP after the Omicron variant was introduced at the end of 2022. And also, zero COVID policy has led to China cracking down on major property and internet companies with the unveiling of 3 red lines. And now let us look at this graph. This graph shows the China annual GDP growth from the year 2000 to the year 2000 and 2024. So as you can see, 2000 is still very stable growth. The peak is around 2008 where they have the Beijing Olympic there. And afterwards, it's still a stable growth. But when it hits until 2020, the graph suddenly, boom, go all the way down. It's because the COVID suddenly hit at this time. And then throughout 2020 to 2024, it has a very slow growth or either a very big dip or a very slow growth. So that's China until now. The economy still hasn't recovered from the zero COVID policy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Piero. I'll be introducing the points for potential policies that Malaysia should adopt in order to counter China's economic slowdown. So there are 2 points. The first point is diversifying export markets. So for Malaysia, in Malaysia's case, diversifying trade partners allows Malaysia to reduce the risk associated with over-reliance on one country's economic health. So basically, it's saying Malaysia can reduce its risk associated with China's economic slowdown. For example, in the action part, Malaysia could accelerate efforts to diversify its export destinations, reducing reliance on China. This includes expanding trade with other countries, such as within ASEAN, as well as deepening economic ties with the US, Europe, and emerging markets such as India and Africa. That's all for the first point. Now for the second point. All right. So the second point is promoting domestic consumption and investment. The same thing in Malaysia's case, with external demand softening, which also means that with demand of export decreasing, Malaysia could stimulate domestic consumption, which is able to help to maintain growth, while infrastructure investment can help boost employment and productivity. For example, Malaysia could strengthen domestic demand by incentivizing private consumption through tax cuts, subsidies, and public infrastructure spending. Okay, this is all for my part. I'll be handing it off to the next person. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wong Jia-en. I will be presenting assumptions and limitation of the recommendation. In this part, we will give some assumptions and limitation to the 2 potential policies that just presented by Pierre, which are diversifying spot markets and promoting domestic consumption and investment. Start with diversifying export markets. For these potential policies, the assumption will be first, Malaysia has sufficient economic and diplomatic resource to establish stronger trade ties with other countries and regions. Second, other markets such as ASEAN, the US, Europe, and India will be receptive and able to absorb Malaysia export at comparable or better level than China. So to support these 2 assumptions, we found a news report from the Edge Malaysia says that Malaysia trade with India is approximately $16.5 billion, showcasing substantial growth and potential for further expansion. Other than that, Malaysia trade with Canada has increased by 24% from 2020 to 2023. indicating a positive trend in diversifying trade relationship of Malaysia. On other hand, these potential policies also have the limitation, which is first, trade diversification is a long-term strategy and immediate result may not be evident, especially if other markets are also experience economic challenges. Second, is competition in new markets could be intense with other countries, including those are already established in these regions, vying for similar trade opportunity. So that's all for me. I will pass the second policies to Fred.
Hi, I'm Frederick Day. So moving on, I'll be presenting the assumption and limitation for the potential policies of promoting domestic consumption and investment. The assumption for these potential policies is private consumption response. So according to M. Parvita 2023, the assumption here is that the tax cuts and subsidies will effectively lead to an increase in private consumption. The underlying belief is that when people have more disposable income due to tax cuts or targeted financial support through subsidies, they will spend more. However, this assumes that consumers will choose to spend rather than save the extra income, which is influenced by consumers' confidence and economic condition. Also, the additional spending will be on goods and services that generate significant domestic economic activity. So for example, in the US, during the COVID-19 pandemic, stimulus checks were issued with the assumption that they would increase consumer spending. While many households did spend on necessities, a large proportion of the population chose to save or pay off debt, reducing the immediate impact on consumption. However, the limitation for these potential policies is consumption may not follow tax cuts. Even with tax cuts and subsidies, consumers may not respond by increasing their spending. Economic uncertainty, high household debt, or future income insecurity may lead individuals to save instead of spend. And so for an example, according to Hagiwara 2020, Japan's experience with frequent stimulus measure and consumption tax reduction in the 1990s show limited success in boosting domestic demand due to the aging population's preference for saving over spending. That's all from us. Thank you.